Welcome back, part 2, page 2. And we're going to go over our pre-cuts. I do want to say there is something that I want to add to this front page on page 1, and we'll do that as soon as we're done getting page 2 done. So we had some pre-cuts. We had 2 pieces that were 5 1/8 by 6 1/8. And what we did on both of these is we laid them on our scoring board. We are 5 1/8 across, and we scored each at a 1/2 inch. And they're just our fold outs. We cut a 4 3/4 by 6 1/4, and we called it a mat. There's no scoring. Next, we cut 2 pieces that were 5 7/8 by 6 5/8. One we labeled top flip, one we labeled bottom flip. And on each of these, what we did was we laid this on our scoring board. We are 6 5/8 across. We scored at a 1/2 and 5/8. In your paper pack, locate this piece, and we want our template for the designer paper, and we labeled this page for page 2. So that means we're going to lay it right on top here. And if you are using the coffee and chocolate, I'll show you what base paper I used for that. I used the bean one, where you can see the old coffee down here. So that's what we did there. All right, we're just going to lay that down. We're going to trace around this. Our first cut will be this way, and then we'll go that way and then trim off. So that is what ours should look like. The first thing that we want is our fold outs. We have 2 of them. We're going to have a hinge off to the right and a hinge off to the left. Let's go ahead and fold. Now, before we attach these, what I'd like you to do is to grab your album. And this is where my little pink sheet comes in. I'm going to slide that behind page 2. We want to make sure that we are not too tight on the sides, too close to the hinge. So we're just going to lay that down. Make sure we have a black border at the bottom, the sides. And I still have a little bit of a black border there, which is good. And I am away from that hinge. And over here, I am about a 1/4 inch away. So if you need to make some trimming adjustments, do that. All right, here is the fold out with the hinge off to the right. And what you're gonna wanna do with this is just center that between the bottom corner and your corner up here. And I think I'm pretty good there. So I'm just gonna flip it over and hold it. And I'm gonna apply glue. There's no spacing in this, we don't need it. And then over here, when I hook it on, I'm just gonna look to make sure I am straight with the top of this one. And I think that's good enough for me. And I'll do the same thing. And then I'm just gonna go like that. I'm gonna open this up. On your cut apart sheet, I want you to go ahead and cut out this mermaid. We're gonna set this off to the side for right now. This is what we're gonna add to our page 1. So I'm gonna set that off to the side. And for this one, I am going to cut this out up here. So there's that. And I would like to get the treasure chest. All right, I'll put that back in my reserves. All right, on each one of these, we're gonna cut out and round it. Okay. I have both mine cut out. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the chest and I'm gonna glue it down between the edge of the tail and over here. So I just need some glue through here. Whoops. I'm gonna try and get that on to where it's kind of straight. Now what we're going to do, once we have that, is we're going to apply glue and we're going to glue it down to some black cardstock and we're going to cut out and around. If you are using the coffee and chocolate, I'll just open this up to show you. It is this that was cut out. So here is mine. And I'm going to set that off to the side. Let's grab our mat and some paper. In your reserves, you will find this piece. On the back, it is this. This is 12 inches across by about 5 1/8 or so. Our first cut is we are going to measure over 6 inches and cut. Now that we have that, we're going to look at it like this. We're going to measure over 4 1/2 and cut. All right, let's place this down. And what we want to do is place it so where it is centered in there. Let's glue it down. Now you have a choice here. When I did the coffee and chocolate, the mat was down over here and it's open-ended so we can slide stuff in. And then I had the little percolator sitting right here. Now in this paper, your choice is, if you don't want the mermaid, you'll place it here. I want the mermaid to show, so I'm just going to kind of put this over to the side, a little bit at an angle. And what this is going to do is this is going to come down. Make sure the tail is away from the side of your paper. Maybe leave an 1/8 inch away from the tip of your tail. We're just laying it down for right now. And we'll have that straight. I'm going to shimmy mine over a little bit. And what I'm looking to do is to get this back behind so I can tack down the tip of his tail. That way it won't get caught anywhere. So this is good for me. And so that's what I'm going to be looking at doing. Now since I have this down and I know which way I want it to go, I'm just going to slide that up and I'm going to put a little glue down here. Just a little bit. Place this back how I want it and get it to where the tail is over. So I'll shimmy that over a little more. And I'm just going to press down for a moment. Now that I have him down where he needs to be, if I rotate it, here's his tail. I am going to go glue down the one side, and I'm going to put glue over here, and I'm going to put glue along the bottom where his feet are, and a little bit at the bottom there. So when I flip it over, glue is here and here. And again, I'm watching that tail. You can maneuver this any way. Now his little foot here, I'll put a little more glue to tack that down. So you just got to play with it a little bit. And that looks good to me. Now, the reason why we didn't do further up is because you can slide a photograph in there and it will frame really nice when you do get that photograph in there. And this is open-ended so you can stuff more mats. Let's go ahead and move on to in here. In your paper pack, you will have this print. On the back, it is this. Let's go ahead and I think we are going to turn our paper this way. Measure over 5 7/8 and cut. Our first cut, we're going to measure over 4 3/8 and cut. So that's what you should have. We'll stick that here. We're going to flip this upside down. The jellyfish is upside down over here. Measure over 4 3/8 and cut. So we're going to center that right on in there, glue that down, and we're going to glue that one down. So there's that. We'll just close that up, and we're going to work on over here. This piece that's left over, let's go ahead and turn it like this. The anchor's over here. Measure over 5 7/8 and cut. All right, we're going to make 2 cuts. Turn this upside down. Measure over 4 3/8 and cut. Measure over again 4 3/8 and cut. We'll go ahead and apply glue, and we're going to center that right on in there and glue those down. Now it's time for the top flip and the bottom flip. Let's start with the top flip. We're going to go ahead and fold on both those score lines. Okay, working with the top. On the top score line, pinch and crease. You will still be able to see the bottom one. We're going to hook that right on up at the top, back behind, and we're going to try to center that even side to side as best we can. Once you have it, pinch and hold on, and let's glue that down. Okay, So keep it down like that. It's easier to line up the bottom one. We're going to go ahead and fold on the bottom score lines. For the bottom flip, I should say, both of them. And flap is down here. The bottom score line, pinch and crease. You should still be able to see your other score line. And we're going to go ahead and slide that underneath and line up our sides. I'm pretty good there. We're going to go for this, get this on. All right, now let's fold back on the other one. And we'll kind of push that up. We'll fold back on this other score line and then push that down. And it should look something like this. All right, grab this out. Mermaid Kisses and Starfish Wishes. If you wish to use a different one, go ahead. We have several packs, so you can always grab from another pack if there's something you already used. We're going to go ahead and cut out and around this. And once we're done cutting out and around this, we're going to glue it down to some black cardstock. And then we'll cut out and around that. All right, I have mine. We're going to go ahead and find our paper. And we'll start with the inside. In your paper pack, you will have this print. So I really love the musical notes. This piece I'm hoping to get 4 pieces out of. Our first cut is we are going to measure over 5 5/8 and cut. All right, we have that. Now I want us to flip this upside down, measure over 5 5/8 and cut. So now you're sitting with these 2 panels. We're going to go ahead and look at it. We have the little pearl trim at the bottom. We're going to double these up. We will turn it sideways. So we have this here and we have that there. Measure over 5 3/4 and cut. Measure over again 5 3/4 and cut. So after making that cut, this is what you should have. This one with part of the ship showing set off to the side. This one is on the back of this with the gears. Set that off to the side. We're working on the inside here. And I think I am going to place this one up here and I'm going to center it in there. So we'll glue that down. And then this one, which has the treasure chest. Now you can either go like this or you can have this. And I'm just going to use this. So I'm going to glue those down. Now make sure you're away from that bottom score line, okay guys? Just kind of center it in there as best you can, away from the score line. All right, I have both of mine down. Now one thing is you're going to want to make sure that your spacing is in there. If you want to give a little bend, you can. Make sure your spacing is in there, up at the top. You feel it feels flat. And you can give this just a little bend without creasing. Okay, the first one we want to put down is the one with the gears. So we are going to apply glue, and the top one is over the bottom, and we're going to go ahead and glue that down. And we're going to need a couple magnets. All right, so magnets, get a plus and a minus. Let's put that where it needs to be. And what's going to happen is the magnet is going to go back behind here, but I do want to be able to cover it some. Most of this gets covered, so I'm going to show you what it's going to look like. So when we go ahead and do it like this and we put a little glue under here, the part that's going to show is like that, okay? We'll have the magnet, and then I want to be able to cover this up a bit. So I'm just grabbing this out of my reserves. And it has this little bit there. I'm going to flip that over. And I'm going to trace it. All I need to do is trace it halfway up. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of cut that along the side here. Now when I do this, I'm going to come to the inside of that pencil line and kind of curve it around the best I can. It does not have to be perfect. So I'm going to flip it over now. And I'm going to see what I got going. And this is perfectly fine for me, you see. Just this bottom. I cannot find my, oh, here's my magnet. It's stuck to my scissors. So I'm just going to bring that there. And now I'm going to glue this down. And again, it does not have to be perfect. Just trying to cover up some of the black here. Okay, I am going to slip something back behind here. I have this purple thing so I can see what I'm doing. So here is the magnet part underneath here, and I went up pretty high. But all I want to do is put some glue right here. Let me give this a little bend. Might be more helpful. And I'm going to try and center that in there best I can. So before you let it completely go, check to make sure that you are covering, and your magnet should be right here. All right, let's grab the mate. All right, so once you have that, flip it over, let that find the mate. We'll take that backing off. And you're going to just let it fall where it falls. And then we're going to shimmy that off. Our last piece, we're going to apply glue, and we're going to center that right on in there. Okay, let's give that a burnish. Okay, I'm going to grab my book. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply glue to this, and we're going to line that up. You should be 1/4 inch away from that hinge there. And just kind of fit that on in there and glue it down. All right, so I had you do this. I'm going to put that off to the side. We're going to go ahead and cut out and around the mermaid. And then when you're done with that, you are going to back it with some black cardstock. Here's mine. It's not perfect by any means. Here is our page 1. Go ahead and open that up. Let's see if we can't tack her tail down right over here so you could still slide something back behind if you wanted. But when you close it, we have the mermaid kind of gracefully swimming this way. So that's where I want to put mine. So I'm going to glue down the bottom of this tail of hers. And I can still see that. And I'm going to glue back behind this part. So I'm just going to add some glue here. Okay, page 2 is complete. We are now moving on to page 3. We're on page 3. We have one pre-cut, a 6 1/8 by 10 13/16. So once we did that, what we did was we laid it on our scoring board at 6 1/8. We scored at a half. We then rotated it so we are 10 13/16. Anyway, we scored it at half. And here's the easiest way to do this. We did say to go ahead and score it at 10 5/16. Easiest way is just flip this around and score it at a half. So we're going to get this ready. Down in the corners on each side, you'll see where your score lines meet. Let's go ahead and clip up and over on those score lines on each side. Okay, now we're going to fold on those score lines, the bottom and the sides. All right, so the flap should be at the bottom and on the sides. Pull in your side. You can see how far over you need to go. Put a little glue. And we'll just hold it there for a moment. And then we'll use our tool to burnish it really well. All right, we're ready to go. Let's get our decorated paper. In your second paper pack, you'll find another one of these. And on the back, it is this. We're going to take the template for our designer paper, and we're going to make sure we are on the one facing us 3. If not, figure out which way you should be going. We'll line it up with the top and the sides, and we are going to trace this. Once you're done tracing, our first cut is this way, and then we cut that way. Once you've done that, find your page 3 and make sure that it is going to fit in there, and mine is. All right, so here's our pocket. The bottom has that flap. Grab this out of your paper pack. The first thing I think I'd like us to do is put this on our paper cutter, and we're just going to divide this whole section away from that. Once you've done that, I'd like you to cut out and around each one of these. You'll want to use your paper cutter to get straight lines. And you should have these 3 pieces here. We'll just set those off to the side. In your reserves, you will have this piece. It's 12 inches long. It'll say the mermaid. And on the back, it is this. Measure over 9 5/8 and cut. All right, make sure this is the opening, this is the top. We're going to apply glue, and we're going to center that side to side, and we're going to leave ourselves a little bit of a black border. So let's glue that down. All right, here is the treasure chest. We're going to apply glue. We'll bring it down, line it up with the sides, and we'll leave a little bit of a black border down there. We want this one next. We're going to apply glue and do the same thing. Glue it down. Last is this. We're going to apply glue. We're going to overlap onto the other 2, centering it, and glue that down. All right, it's time to get this on. Now, I'm going to give mine a little bend. Now, when I put glue around here, I am going to make sure that I line up the side and the bottom, and then I'm going to kind of pucker it up just a little bit, not that much. All righty. So now, all we have to do is glue this down. Let's do it. Page 3 is complete. We're going to move on to page 4. Page 4 is our waterfall page, and what we did was we cut 5 pieces of cardstock that were 5 by 6 1/8, and we labeled only one of them waterfall. On each one of these, we laid these on our scoring board. We are 5 inches across, and on each one we scored it at a 1/2 inch. We then had a 1 1/8 by 5 1/2 inch piece. We called it a strap. We laid this on our scoring board. We are 5 1/2 across. We scored at a 1/2 and 5/8. In your paper pack, you will find this print, and on the back, it is this. We're going to take our template. This is for page 4. Make sure it's going the right way. We'll line it up with the bottom, and over here, let's trace around this. Once we've traced it, our first cut is this way, and then that way. So let's do that. After making your cuts, we do want to verify that this is going to fit and we don't need to do any trimming. Mine is good, so I'm going to move on. On each one of your pieces, we're going to fold on our score lines on each one. We're going to need our pencil and ruler. I think you can see that. So from the bottom, measure up 5 3/8. From the bottom, just make a line horizontal there. That's going to be our guide. We're going to be using glue. All right, so here is the peak, and I am just going to go ahead and apply some glue here. I'm going to fold this back, and I'm going to find that line, and I'm going to place this. Now when I place it, I'm going to try and be as even side to side as I can. And the first one, I definitely want to try to get on straight, as straight as I can. And that's good enough for me. We're going to grab our next piece here. And what I like to do is I just flip it over and I line it up with this one. It's easier. And then I press it down and make sure I'm lining up side to side. Okay. Now these are going to be a bit stiff to start. They do relax over time. And we're just going to keep going until we don't have any more. Here's my last one. All right, so I wanted to point something out. We're going to be using a lot of scrap pieces for this. That is exactly what I did in the coffee and chocolate. So to give you an idea, these were actually 2 different pieces, and then I ran a strip down, and you would never know. These 2 were seamed together. This was seamed together. This one was seamed together. That was a full. That's a full one. So we're going to be doing a lot of that. Okay, in your reserves you will find this print. On the back, it is this. This should be 5 7/8 about, and it's about 3 1/4. So we want that piece. All right, do you remember in the very beginning when we were cutting out for our front piece here, this piece, we had some leftover scraps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of the ones with the wood grain, and even though I have that curve in there, what I'm going to do is put this on my paper cutter and kind of just go straight down. I'm going to use up these scraps. All right, so for me, I have maybe 1 1/4 inches this way, and I'm 12 inches this way. I'm going to measure over 5 7/8 and cut, and I'm going to measure over again 5 7/8 and cut, because I can use this in a couple different places. So what you're going to do with this is we're going to apply glue, and we're going to lay this down, and I'm going to get something so that you can kind of see where my black edges are. So just like that, I have maybe 1/8 over here and over here. I'm going to take this, leave myself a little black at the top, and I'm going to glue that down just like that. If you cannot locate yours, wait till the end of the tutorial and use a different scrap, because this piece layers on top of that. But I think you will have enough, even if yours is kind of broken up a little bit more. Perhaps you didn't cut exactly where I cut, and that's fine. We're just doing the best we can here. So we're going to just flip that. I'm going to slide this underneath. In your reserves, you will have this piece. This is, guess what? About 5 7/8 by about 3 1/4. And we have this other wood piece as well. And since I went dark here, I'm going to use this side and do the same thing. Glue that down first, then the wood grain comes on top. Now be mindful, you have a score line here, so make sure you leave black in between this score line and this piece. Let's glue it down. If you are working with the coffee and chocolate, you're going to be grabbing scraps as well. Just do the best you can with seaming them together like I did, pushing them together to make a design, or overlapping, because I did that too. All right, flip it up. We're going to move to this one. In your reserves, you will have this piece. It is about 2 5/8 by 12 inches. Measure over 5 7/8 and cut. Measure over again 5 7/8 and cut. And I think I'm going to just glue that right on down here. And I'm going to take this one and I'm going to glue that down right on top of it. Make it real easy. Don't have to be real persnickety about chopping them down more. It's just a background for our photographs. When our photograph is laid, it's going to cover up most of this and hopefully leave you with a nice colorful border around. That's kind of the idea. That's how I like to do mine, at least. So that's how I kind of teach it. So don't be too concerned. All right, I have that. I'll flip it up. In your reserves, you will find a couple of these. There's this one. And you will also find a cutting for this one. We'll just double these up. We'll measure over 5 7/8 and cut. For this one, I'm just going to apply glue and I'm going to set my first one down. And then I'm going to take this one, apply glue, and I'm going to glue that down. Again, if you are working with different paper, this is the time to get into those scrap pieces and make use of them. As soon as we're done there, we're moving on to our next. In your reserves, you will have this piece, 12 inches long. It is about 3 1/4, 3 1/8. Measure over 5 7/8 and cut. Measure over again, 5 7/8 and cut. All right, this is what you should have. You can do any side you want, you guys. I am just putting them down. Because I know once my photos go on it, it'll look good. I'm going to start with this one. Then I'm going to put this one. Like if you wanted all the other print, go ahead. But I want to mix it up a little, some different things. All right, so we have that so far. We'll just flip up this top one. We'll start here. In your reserves, you will have this. This is 12 inches long and about 3 1/8, 3 1/4 or so. Measure over 5 7/8 and cut. Measure over again, 5 7/8 and cut. All right, so I have this and I have this, and I'm just going to glue it down, overlapping, just like that. If you would rather not do it like that, here's another way to do it, and you'll get some more color in there. And I might do mine like that, actually. Get a little more color. Do it any way you want. I have that down. I'm going to flip it up, and we are going to attach the strap, and then we're going to also place a little magnet with something right here. We could have done the strap before. Actually, let's just do it now. So here's our strap, and yeah, we'll fold on those. And then the hinge is at the bottom, so on that bottom score line, pinch and crease, and we're just going to slide it somewhere in the middle there. Once you have that, we'll just glue this down. And we can actually put a magnet back behind and do something like that. We'll get some paper for that and get that all going. You'll need a plus and a minus. All right, in my reserves, I have this piece. This is about 2 1/4 by about 6 7/8. On this piece, I'm going to measure over 1 inch and cut. I'll measure over again 1 inch and cut. Okay, so I have 2 pieces here. All I'm going to do is place this down. I'll use my pencil, make a pencil mark, and I'll get my other one back behind, lined up, and I'm just going to cut them both. And you can use your paper cutter if you'd like. I'm just going to do mine by hand. It's fine. Okay. So I'm going to lay this down on the top side. And that should give me a little bit of a black border on each side there. I'll burnish from this side. All right, so I want to get something off of here. I love these cut-aparts. They're great. You can use the mermaid. That would look really good. It's up to you. What we're going to end up doing is when this comes over, we're going to have an image on top with the magnet back underneath. So I don't think I want something that big. But I do want the ship. The ship would be a good one. So I'm going to cut out the ship. I'm going to cut out and around it. I'm going to place it to some black cardstock to give it more durability and to outline it. All right, here is my ship. And I'm going to bring it down probably right about there. I'm just going to get it on here. I'm going to put something back behind. Okay, I'm not going to worry about the black back there. All right, I'm going to stick that there. And then I'm going to glue this down. All right, so I want to keep this image. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back behind that piece there. I'm going to dot a little glue. I'm going to then keep my finger underneath there. This is one way to figure out how the magnet, where it's supposed to go. If you have it to where your finger is still underneath and then press, okay, and just leave it there for a moment, it will be right on where it's supposed to be without getting all glue and trying to figure out, as long as you keep your fingers underneath there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it up, and that is where it's supposed to be. Now I want to cover that, and all I'm going to do is I'm in my reserves right now, and I'm just going to kind of find something that's going to fit over it, and then I'm going to trim. Now you'll want to keep your sticky side there until you find something, but then I'm just going to hand cut this. You don't have to be real persnickety, you know. If you want to use a wider piece, then do so. Mine is just covering. So now, when this is pressed down, it should grab. All right, let's flip. Next, we have another one of these. Measure over 5 7/8 and cut. Measure over again 5 7/8 and cut. And I'm just going to work this. I'll put this one down, and this one will go over the top. So whatever way you want to do it. So because I'm using these scraps, if you're following along with me, you'll probably want to use the same scraps so we have the same leftovers. But if you find that maybe you grabbed the wrong one and I call out for something that you may have used here, wait till the end of the tutorial and then do what you need to do. All right, in your reserves, you will have this piece. It looks like it's about 6 inches. Measure over 5 7/8 and cut. Once you've done that, turn it, measure over 4 1/4 and cut. Okay, so you can apply glue and glue that down right like this, or you can use this side. I'm going to use that side. When you're doing waterfalls and filling in, sometimes what I used to do is just put like a 1/2 inch strip here and leave the rest black. But in this case, we're going to have a lot of scraps from the way we have to cut our main page, and this is a great way to use it up. In your reserves, you should have this 12 inches wide. Measure over 5 7/8 and cut. Measure over again 5 7/8 and cut. All right, I'm going to flip these over. That one, and then that one. Now at the end of the tutorial, what you can do is fill in these black spaces. And we have about a 1/2 inch in there, but you'll want to cut yours to 3/8 strips to fit in between there if you do that. I'm going to do that off camera. It's so tedious, but easy if you would like to do that. If you don't mind the black spaces in between, then leave it. All right, I found two skinny pieces like this, and then this. On each one of these, measure over 5 7/8 and cut. I'm going to place mine looking just like that. Now page 4 took a little more time than what really would take if you used full sheets, but we were trying to use what we had. So I'm going to give you a little bit tip for this though. Here's our page 4. We're going to apply glue, and we're going to glue it in, and make sure you burnish really well. And then I want you to leave your page flat in the book until we get page 5 in. The reason why is because we are very heavy here. We are short on our spine. okay? It's not like we have more stability. But until we get that extra layer in on the back, if you stand your book up, your page is going to want to pull forward. So if I was to put this in my book, it's heavy and it's going to want to pull forward. We don't want that. So after gluing it down, leave your book open and flat to let that glue dry and until we can get our page 5 in there. Just a tip. I learned that when I was doing the coffee and chocolate. I, of course, always close my book, stand it up, walk away, go do something else. Now on this, because it was so heavy, I found that when I came back an hour later, my page, I needed to wait till I got more weight on the other side. And then I don't have a problem with it. And you're going to want to take a lot of time here and burnish. Okay, page 4 is complete. We are now moving on to page 5. We're on page 5 and we have some pre-cuts. We cut 2 pieces that were 6 3/4 by 12 inch. We called it a fold out. On each one of these, what we did was we laid this so that we are 12 inches across. We scored at a half, 5/8, 5 1/4, and 9 3/4 on each one of these. And these were fold outs. Now I had a note on there, if you are not using the Tim Holtz baseboard window frames, then go ahead and cut a 3 1/4 by 4 5/8, label it a mat. So if you're using these, you're not going to need this. So we'll set that off to the side. In your paper pack, you will have one of these. On the back, it is this. We're going to, since we're on page 5, we're going to locate the template that says page 5, because it was that. And what I want to do is bring this up to just underneath this wood trim, and I want to center this side to side pretty evenly. Now you can use your ruler. Now, once you have this, our first cut is going to be this way. Then we're going to go this way, and then we can go ahead and chop the sides. So once you've done that, we always want to verify that our piece is going to fit in here. And if we have to do any trimming, we can do that. But when we lay it down, we should have about a 1/4 inch away from that. Okay, let's get our fold outs. So we're going to have a hinge where off to the right and then a hinge off to the left on this. So let's go ahead and start folding on the score lines. So once you fold that like this, what you're going to do is fold again, and I'll make sure that everyone is orientated the correct way, and then we're going to fold back this way. So when your hinge is over here and hooked on, what's going to happen is when you rotate it out, you're going to end up like this. All right, so we are going to start with the hinge off to the right. Your outside score line here, we're going to pinch and crease, bring this right to the bottom. That'll be easier. So right to the bottom of my piece, and we'll glue that flap down. That'll be easier for lining these up anyway. I think that's what I did too on the other. So the hinge is over here. The outside one, we're going to go ahead and hook that on. And we'll just bring it all the way to the bottom like the other. Hook that on. We'll fold it in and then press back against that other one. So now it gives us some little bit of spacing in there to accommodate our fold in. All right, so let's get the right orientation of now that we have this on. This piece here is going to fold back. So when you open it up, immediately you're going to see this little flap here. Over here, This piece, fold it back if you fold it the wrong way so that when you fold this in, you see that. Okay? We're just going to open this up, and you're going to keep these flaps tucked back behind. So all you see is what we need to work with right now. In your paper pack, you will have this piece. On the back, it is this one. You'll find another one of these in one of your packs. So here is where the gears are. And we're going to turn it to where the gears are right over here. We're going to measure over 6.5 and cut. Now we're going to make 2 cuts. Measure over 4 3/8 and cut. Measure over again 4 3/8 and cut. So you have a choice here. You can flip these over. Glue this one down here and here in between. That would look really good. Or you can just have it like this. And I kind of like the jellyfish thing. Let's see how I want to. Actually, I'll put the jellyfish over here and that here. Now, when I do place a photograph in there, it is going, if you do choose to use this space with this, do know that you will still get that beautiful framing around, but you will cover up the picture. Me, I like the darker blue, so it doesn't matter if I end up using that space. Again, this is your album, so you get to choose however you want to do that. We're going to make use of this this panel here that came off of this. Also, you're going to grab one of those strips that when we were cutting out our main paper, and the strip I'm using is that one long brown piece. On the back, it's this. All right, so on both of these, we're going to make a couple cuts. Measure over 4 1/4 and cut. Measure over again 4 1/4 and cut. All right, I'm going to scoot that down again. My flap is back behind. This piece right here, you can flip it over and use it that color. I'm going to go ahead and continue on with this. And I'm going to center that in between the sides so it's black. And I'm going to glue that down. Then I'm going to take one of my pieces here and I'm going to glue that down. Just to the top. If you want to overlap a little onto your panel, you can. All right, let's shuffle that on down. I'm going to place this, and then I'm going to use the wood grain at the top, kind of like what we did before. If you are working with a different paper, just match in however you want to do. All right, so now we're going to flip these in. In your other paper pack, you'll have one more of these, and on the back, it is this. We're going to look at it like this to where the print is down here. We're going to measure over 6.5 inches and cut. Now that we have that, we're going to look at it like this to where we have the little maps down over here. Measure over 4 3/8 and cut. Measure over again 4 3/8 and cut. When you're done, you should have these 2 panels, larger panels. We'll put those off to the side. You should have one of these. And in your reserves, you will have a 12-inch long piece like this. Measure over 6.5 and cut. And we'll go ahead and use this. So we're working on the inside. These do not have to be the same because guess what? They're just going to be layered in here. And you can do this any way you want. I'm just going to go ahead and apply my glue to these strips. Here is our flap. We're going to bring this over to the right, and then over here would be to the left. And we'll center that top and bottom. And this piece here should be wide enough to when we go like this, it covers. Now that you have that down, we're going to put a little thin piece of glue here and here, and we'll burnish it. It just makes a little tuck pocket for us. Do not glue these down yet because we have to place our magnet, our window, and all that good stuff. So that is what you have, and you have a little pocket. We're going to do the same here. Glue that down, apply a thin glue here and here, and flop it over. Now we have some pieces in our reserve. They probably look like this. They might not be even because we hand cut. And it's when we cut something out of here. So it doesn't matter really. And where the straight edge is, I have my straight edge over here. And my straight edge, I'm going to, and this is where I cut at the top, I'm going to double these up. The first thing I'm going to do is where I have any cut lines, I'm going to just put this on my paper cutter and trim this down straight. So we're using up scraps, okay? So after doing that, situate to where your star is down here, and you have webbing down here. I'm sitting at about 4 inches. If you are not, you will turn yours this way, okay? And you'll be probably about 4.5 or a little over. But since mine is about 4 inches, okay, I'm just going to measure over 2 inches and cut that in half. What you're going to be looking for is to get 4 2-inch strips, okay? Don't worry about how long because we'll have plenty there. Because all we're going to do is piggyback here, guys. That's it. That's all. So I'm going to, and you can flip it over, but it has the cutoff. I'm going to stick this one here. And then I'm going to piggyback. I'm going to push these two together. So it creates like a seam. You can't really tell. I'm going to use my pencil, if I can find it. Make a pencil mark on the shorter one, or on this one. And then I'm just going to cut. Now, you probably want to use your paper cutter for that. Hopefully I got straight. But we're just seaming these together. That's it. Okay, to create something and to use up some scraps. Because this is a large album and we are cutting larger pieces. So I'll do mine first here. And I'm just going to leave a little bit of a black here so that it shows that it's a pocket. I'll bring it down here, leave a little bit of that, and then I'm just going to piggyback this right on top the way it was going. Just like that. However it fits for you, okay? Just using scraps, it'll be fine, believe me. Alright, so on this one, I think I'll put this one down first. So after I got that down, I'm just going to push it up against the other and make a pencil mark and trim it. And we're looking pretty good there. On your cut apart sheet, go ahead and find this one. It's always ourself we find at the sea. We're going to cut out and around this, mount it to black cardstock, and then we'll cut out around that. So let's do that. And I think I'm going to put mine right here, and I'm just going to put some glue over here. Make sure you don't get past, and just glue that down. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's fold these in. Now the side that we can actually glue down right now is this side. So we can go ahead and glue that one down. We'll go ahead and get our plus and our minus magnets ready to go. If you are using the baseboard frames, go ahead and cut out this middle section. So I have mine ready. If you're not using this, you will have your mat. So grab this out of your reserves. So if you are using the mat, hang tight. If you are using the baseboard frame, we want to get that fish in there. So as you can see, the frame is a little bit bigger. So we're going to shimmy that up until we have equal amount of the white showing the band down here and here. And I have a picture of the fish. If you want to go this way in order to get that whole fish in, you can. I am going this way because that's the way I originally did it, and I think it looks good this way. So once I have this where I want, I am going to draw around this. All right, so I got that. Okay. If you did like the fish or something, your fish would end up looking something like this. And you know, it doesn't look right. So hang tight here. If you're using the frame, make sure your fish is going to fit in there. And once you have the correct size, what I want you to do is just flip this image over onto, let's say this one, kind of even it up a little bit, and you're going to trace around this one. This is in our reserves, and I'll show you why in a minute. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. I'm going to use my paper cutter though so I can get a clean cut. So what you're first going to want to do on this is you're going to make sure that you have even spacing of white here and here. Now I want you to hold on to this. Okay, don't let it move. Notice that this comes all the way down to the bottom. So if we were to place this over, that should cover it, or you can just trim it. Okay, I am going to trim a little bit off here so that it looks consistent with the top. And you can use your paper cutter or whatever it is you want to use. But what we're trying to do is so that it looks okay on the back. Once we place that magnet, I have white down here, white up here. And then this piece, I will be trimming just a little bit off so that it is the same size. So now these should be the same size so that when we do have this down and we pull this up, we have something in the back. And it's a great place for journaling. Okay, people who did want to use that mat. All right, so what you're going to end up doing, and I'm going to give you a quick measurement, but you're going to have to center this. This is about 3 3/8. You're going to have to figure out to center this with your mat, okay? So if your mat is 3 1/4 inches wide, I'd go 3 1/8 wide. So put your ruler down, just kind of look and see where 3 1/8 would look good. You can get it in, make your pencil mark. And then you can get a total of about 4.5 tall. And what you're going to do is that will frame, okay? That would frame your image. I'm not going to cut this down anymore, but you can see that if you get it slightly smaller than the mat, it will give you a black border around there. And once you get that size, then you can go to the panel, little panel pages, which is behind this. Get this one and cut it to the same, and then you'll have a backing for that, okay? So our first thing that we are going to want to do is we are going to place glue around the sides on the front where the fish is. I hope that made sense. I was trying to do this so that everyone, whether you had this or not, but I may not have said that in a good way to where it's understandable. I hope so. So the magnet needs to place right under here. So I'm just going to rotate that. I'll grab my plus. And if you are using the mat, glue your fish down to the front. And then underneath here, you'll rotate it. And this is where your magnet is going to go. So all we're doing is sandwiching this magnet in between those two panels that we just cut for this. So make sure I got this right. Flip it over. It should be right behind the fish's mouth. Now we're going to glue this down. All right. So my magnet is under here. I want to be able to center this. All I need, and I'm just going to put some glue for right now, just on this little panel, and then I can wipe up anything that isn't needed. I'm going to center that. Kind of take a look if it looks even enough. And I think that's fine. Even and straight. So I'm right there. So now when I open that up, my magnet's here. The mate's underneath, of course. So this is just the mate. We're going to stick there. And we're going to bring this over. And we're going to press. Then we're going to shimmy that off. See? Now we can take this, apply glue, and cover it. All right, so that is what I have here. This page is complete. We're going to apply glue. We're going to make sure that we fit in there and glue it down. Let's do it. Generally, I love using score tape for putting my main sheet in the book. I don't care for gluing it because you can get warpage and everything. That's why I choose on my other tutorials to do that. But on this one, it's so much easier. All right, page 5 is complete. I think it looks great. We're moving on to page 6. And now, since you've got some weight over here, this page here, is good to go with keeping your book upright. All right, page 6, we had one pre-cut, 4 1/4 by 8 inches. It's our side pocket. We laid this on our scoring board. We are 4 1/4 across. We scored at 1/2. We turned it. We're now 8 inches across, 1/2 inch, and 7 1/2. Let's get our side pocket ready to go, like we've been doing. Score lines, make squares. We're going to cut out those squares. Let's fold on all the score lines. Okay, the sides, I have those in. I'm going to put a little glue down in the corners here. Fold up. All right, let's go ahead and set that to the side. In your paper pack, you will find this print. On the back, it is this. Now, it may seem we have a ton of paper left in our packs, but our next 2 pages eats up a lot of that paper. So let's grab our template here and let's see, make sure we have 6 up. We're going to just go right up here to the corner. We're going to trace around this, and our first cut is this way, and then we would cut it this way. So let's get that ready to go. As always, verify your piece is going to fit, and mine does. Our side pocket. Our opening is here, so the little tabs go over here. Let's get some glue on that. And we'll get that down. This is a real easy, quick page. We'll bring it down to the bottom. And if you'd like to pucker that a little bit, you can. But I think it's big enough to where you don't really need to. So I'm just going to get that down. Let's find our paper for this. And also what you're going to need on our little cut-aparts, cut her out. Now, we had this cutting left over off after this. On the back, it looks like this, has a little treasure chest. We're going to turn it. The gears are over here. Measure over 6 7/8 and cut. Now, this is going to be shorter. We're going to put a trim here. So we're going to apply glue to this. We're going to center that top and bottom, and we're going to glue that down. Now, we also have this cutting. Okay, you see where we have a trim piece right here? We're going to put this on our paper cutter and we're going to trim so that we can get this and that. And I'll show you mine. So all I was looking for was this. Now I'm going to measure over 6 7/8 and cut. Here's mine. And I'm going to leave a little bit of black showing so people can see that that is a pocket. We'll glue it down there. Next, we're going to cut out and around the image. Then we're going to glue it down to black cardstock, and we're going to cut out and around that. And I'll show you mine when I'm done. Now, one thing I'm going to be doing is down here where her hair kind of comes around, I'm just going to clip that off. It'll make it easier for me. If you want to go ahead and cut around that, you can. All right, so here's mine. I'm just going to go ahead and glue her completely down to this. All right, page 6 is complete. We're going to apply glue. And we're going to glue that right on down on into our book. Page 6 is complete. We are now moving on to page 7. We're on page 7. Let's go through our pre-cuts. We cut 2 pieces that were 6 by 6 7/8, and we called them a fold out. On each one of these, we laid this on our scoring board. We are 6 inches across. We scored at 1/2 and 5/8 on each one of these. Next, we cut 2 pieces, 3 1/2 by 6 1/8, And we called this an inside pocket for our fold outs. On each one of these, we laid this on our scoring board. We are 3.5 across. We scored at 1/2. We then turned our paper. We are now 6 1/8 across. We scored at 1/2 and 5 5/8 on each one of these. And you can go ahead and cut out the squares, fold, and adhere your flaps down on these to get these ready to go. Next, we had 2 pieces that were 3 3/4 by 6 3/8. We called these small flips. On each one of these, we laid them on our scoring board. We are 6 3/8 across, and on each we scored them at 1/2 inch. Our last 2, we cut 6 by 6 15/16. If you don't know what that is right in between 6 7/8 and 7 inches. Anyway, we laid this on our scoring board. We are 6 15/16 across. We scored at 1/2 and 3/4 on each one of these. In your paper pack, you will have this print. On the back, it is this. Grab your designer paper template. We're on page 7, and we're just going to bring this down to the bottom right hand side. We will trace around this. Our first cut is this way, and then we'll cut that way. Let's grab our 6 by 6 7/8 fold outs, and we're going to fold on those score lines. All right, we're going to have a hinge off to the right here on the outside score line, pinch and crease. And we're going to go ahead and center that in between here and down here as best you can. And we're going to do the same with the other side. I find it easier to leave this flattened out because this one overlaps on top, and then that way you can try and get that lined up as best you can. Let's open these up, and we're going to work on our paper for the inside. In your paper pack, you will find this print. On the back, it is this. We're going to turn it this way, measure over 6 5/8 and cut. First cut we're going to make is we're going to measure over 5 inches and cut. And then from this side, we'll just turn it upside down, measure over 5 inches and cut. So these are the 2 pieces that we have. We're going to apply glue. We're going to center it in there between this outside score line and over here, and top and bottom. And we're going to do the same over here. Let's glue those down. Next, grab your pockets. We're going to apply glue. The opening is this way, and we're going to bring it down. And you can pucker those up a little bit if you'd like. We'll do that on each side. So let's do that. All right, grab this back out of reserves. Measure over 5 inches and cut. Turn it this way, measure over 2 7/8 and cut. Apply glue and glue that down. The piece that fell off from this, I want you to apply glue and glue that down and leave down here alone. Grab this back out of reserves. And what you're going to want to do is put this on your paper cutter and cut between the rope and this. All I'm going to do is bring this down to the bottom. Grab my pencil. It's 5 inches if you want to know. And I'm going to cut that. And then I'm going to glue it down. All right, let's close that. And one's going to overlap onto the other. In your paper pack, you will have this print. And on the back, it is this. Turn it this way. The gears are up here. Measure over 6 3/8 and cut. Now we're going to make 2 cuts. Measure over 5 1/8 and cut. Measure over again 5 1/8 and cut. All right, once you've done that, flip these over. Apply glue. Now this is going to be short. I want to put some trim down here. So we'll bring it up to the top and we will center it side to side. Leave yourself a little bit of a black border. Glue that down. And let's see. We'll use this side and we'll glue that down. Originally I was going to use this side, but you know, that is so colorful and pretty. So I'm going to do that. Now behind the cover of one of your pieces, you will see the trim at the bottom. Go ahead and separate that. Measure over 5 1/8 and cut. Measure over again 5 1/8 and cut. All right, we're going to apply glue, and we will place that, leaving a little bit of a black border at the bottom, and we will do that for this one as well. So let's do that. It is time to grab our small blips, and we're just going to fold, and on each one of these you're going to do the same thing. So I got glue, and I will bring it up a little bit there. Try to even that out side to side if you can. Now on this one, the left overlaps onto the right. All right, you should have this in your reserves. It is the cuttings off this. What we're going to do is we're going to turn it this way. On the back it looks like this. We're going to measure over a 1/2 inch and cut, measure over again a 1/2 inch and cut. Just do the best you can. We're just going to go ahead and cut a piece to fit there. So I'll use my thing here. And you'll do the same on the other one. All right, we're going to get our paper for in there. You should have this in your reserves, and it has this on the back. Just turn it to where the jellyfish is over here. We're going to make 2 cuts. Measure over 3 1/2 and cut. Measure over again 3 1/2 and cut. Again, this is where you can choose. You can either put these sides up or that. I'm actually going to be doing it like this. In your paper pack, you will have this print. Let's turn it sideways. The ship is here. Measure over 5 5/8 and cut. We're going to make 2 cuts. Measure over 3 1/2 and cut. Measure over again 3 1/2 and cut. Glue these down right there. If you'd rather have this side, you can. It's time to get our large flips, and on both of these, go ahead and fold on those score lines. Okay, so we'll have a hinge at the top and at the bottom. On that top hinge, top score line, pinch and crease. I'm going to give mine a little bend. I'm going to hook it on and try to get that centered in the middle there. And once I have it, I'm going to pinch and hold on to it so it does not shift on me. And I'm going to glue that down. Okay. So once you have that on, grab your other one, and what I want you to do to make this so much easier for you is just open your flaps up. Here's our hinge at the bottom score line. Just fold that one and flatten it out. It's much easier this way to get it all hooked on correctly over the bulk. So I am just laying this one over this one because that's how it goes. And I'm going to line it up. And I'm going to now glue this down. It's easier to get it on straight. I got dog hair all over me. All right, now that you have that, we can go ahead and we can fold everything back. We can press on these other score lines and push up. This one, we push down. Now, because the bottom one's actually going to come up over this one, we're going to set our magnet now. So grab a plus and a minus. Come in maybe a 1/2 inch up or so. Set the mate. And I like to give mine a good little bend without creasing, just to help it out a little. Make sure my sides are lining up. Press. And then I'm going to shimmy this off rather than pull up. If I pull straight up, I'll probably tear the magnet off because they are pretty strong. Let's find our paper for this. In your reserves, you will have this piece. We're going to turn it this way. Measure over 6 inches and cut, and that's just going to take a little bit off there. We're going to be doing 2 cuts. Measure over 5 3/4 and cut. Measure over again 5 3/4 and cut. All right, we're going to glue that one down there. And we're going to take this one and we're going to glue it up here, centering it on in. So let's do that. If you would rather have that side up with the print, that'd look really pretty. So it's up to you. I'm just going to do the other. All right, I have mine both done. We're going to fold that one down. In your reserves, you should have this print. this is about 5.5 by 12 inches. Measure over 5 3/4 and cut. Measure over again 5 3/4 and cut. All right, for this one, we're going to place that right here, just like that. So let's glue that down. You're going to have a space down here. Let's pull that down. All right, for this one, we're just going to bring that down to the bottom. You will have another cover, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut this. Measure over 5 3/4 and cut. Measure over again 5 3/4 and cut. Now we're going to apply glue, and we're going to have the turquoise up here, the beads down here. And it'll probably try and match up over here. It might not be perfect, but that's what we're doing there. And we will do the little bead work up there, and we will glue that down like that. All right, in your paper pack, you will have another one of these. Let's cut out and around the chest. I like that chest. All right, glue this down to some black cardstock, and then we're going to cut out and around, leaving a black border. Now, if you'd like to bring it up, you can, but I just put glue on the back of everything, and I'm just going to try and center that in there straight. All right, we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to glue that down, and we will burnish it. Open everything up and burnish. So let's get that in there. Page 7 is complete. We are on our last page. We're on page 8, and we have some pre-cuts. First one, 7 1/4 by 8 3/4, and we called this a top flip. What we did was we laid this on our scoring board. We are 7 1/4 across. We scored at 1/2 and 3/4. We called this our top flip. Next, we had a 5 by 8 3/4. We called it a bottom flip. We laid this on our scoring board. We are 5 inches across. We scored at 1/2 and 3/4. We had a 2 1/2 by 9 5/8, and we called this a bottom flip inside pocket. We laid this on our scoring board. We are 2 1/2 across. We scored at 1/2. We then rotated it. Now we're 9 5/8. We scored at 1/2 and 9 1/8. We had a 5 3/4 by 9 1/4. We called it a right fold out. We laid this on our scoring board. We are 9 1/4 across. We scored at 1/2 and 5/8. Next, we have a 3 3/8 by 6 5/8 fold out inside pocket. And I bumped the camera. My apologies. Lay it down 3 3/8 across, scored 1/2. We then rotated it to 6 5/8. We scored at 1/2 and 6 1/8. And we called this our fold out inside pocket. We had a 5 1/2 by 7 inch, and we called it a corner pocket. We laid this so we were 5 1/2 across. We scored at 1/2. Then we rotated it. We are 7 inches across. We only did one score on this, and it was at 1/2 inch. And that's our corner pocket. Our last one, 4 by 7 3/8. It's our top flip side pocket. We laid this on our scoring board. We were 4 inches across. We scored at 1/2. We turned it. We are now 7 3/8 across. We scored at 1/2 and 6 7/8. We already cut our page 8. Please verify it fits. If you need to do any trimming, do so. But I think we already covered that. We're going to first get our corner pocket, our 5 1/2 by 7. Now our score line needs to be over here and going across. We make that square over there, cut out the square. We're going to fold on that. And right now we are not going to assemble, so do not assemble that. Let's find our paper. Okay, I had to take a moment to make sure my scrap pile was, all my scrap designer paper was, and scraps, even small little cuttings, were all in a pile, and then my leftover black cardstock, which I could utilize for when I do my picture mats or whatever, was in a different one. So you will find this in your reserves, on the back it is this. This is approximately 4 3/8, and it is about 7 inches wide. Measure over 6 3/8 and cut. Now I realize this is going to be shorter, but right now we're not assembling this. What we're going to do is we are going to tuck our flaps back behind so that we only see what is here. Okay, so we're going to make sure that it's a good fit side to side. We're not gluing that down, not yet, okay? Next, in your reserves, you're going to find a small little piece. It has that wood. It does not have to be the whole length. We're going to slide this back behind, and we're going to leave a little bit of a black border up here. And make sure this is all straight. I want you to pick this up and visually take a look at what this is. Now, if you need to trim it again, that's fine. But I'm just going to put a little pencil mark so I know where the edge of that is. And I'm going to apply glue to just this little piece. And I'm going to lay it there and get it straight. Now that we have that, we're going to need our ruler and our pencil. From the top corner over, place your ruler down. Measure over 1.5 inches and make a dot right on your paper, right at the top. And from the bottom over here, 1.5, right along the edge. Now we're going to take our ruler and connect where those are as best you can. You can draw a line with your pencil if it makes it easier. Now we're going to cut. And that is what you should get, okay? So pull the flaps back behind, apply glue, and we're going to glue that down just like that. It's easier when you're angling something to get a good fit to do your decorative, your top piece, which is this, before cutting your black. I'm going to erase any pencil marks that I can see. Now we're going to cut this way. Remember, our flaps are over here. Leave a little bit of a black border. So mine looks like that. Now we can go ahead and pull in the side, put a little glue down here. And we made use of that little scrap we otherwise would not. So we'll go get some glue on our flap here. And make sure you do not go over the edge of your paper. Let's grab our right fold out. And we're going to go ahead and fold on those score lines. Your flap's going to be over here on the outside score line, pinch and crease. And you're going to want to make sure you center that between the corner here and down here as best you can. Once you've done that, we're going to fold back on that other score line and we will push in. Grab your 3 3/8 by 6 5/8, fold out inside pocket, and we're going to assemble like we normally do. Cut out the squares, fold back, and adhere. All right, I have mine ready to go. I'm just going to open that up. In your reserves, you will find this piece. It's a rather large piece. It is about 8 inches by about 7 3/8. We're going to turn it to where the gold rings are over here. Measure over 5.5 and cut. Now we're going to apply glue and we're going to center it in there. Leave yourself some black here and here, and you'll want to be away from that inside score line, and then we'll burnish that. All right, so this is a side pocket. The opening is here, so on the back this would be over here. Let's get this down. In your reserves you will find this. On this side you have this, the ship. We're going to turn it to where the rope is over here. This is a small piece. This is about 2 3/4 by 5 3/4. Measure over 5.5 and cut. All right, let's apply glue, and we're going to glue that down right on your cut aparts. You will see the bottle. Let's just cut that out, and then we are going to glue it down to black cardstock, and then we will cut out and around that. I'm going to apply glue to this. Okay, let's get for the outside. All right, you have this in your reserves. Let's go ahead and put this on our paper cutter. We're going to cut down this way and this way. Then we're going to cut out and around each one of these. All right, once you have all your cut aparts, go ahead and stick those off to the side. In your reserves, you will have a couple of these. They're very thin strip. On both of these, measure over 8 3/8 and cut. All right, we're going to go ahead and glue this one down. Leave yourself a black border at the top, and you'll have a black border on the sides. We're going to glue that down. And then we're going to do the same down here. And you're going to want to try and keep these fairly even there. What I was wanting to do is, now we have two ways to do this. Lay down the shell here. We're going to do the same thing we did before with the overlapping. You can lay this one down, don't glue it yet, and then we can come over the top like this. And I think that that would look really cool. Our other option is to flip that one over, and we'll flip this one over, and then this one goes over the top. And I like it like that. So, and I think that looks pretty good. If you are doing the coffee and chocolate, what I did is I used that. Let's right there and just cut it down. All right, grab your 5 by 8 3/4 bottom flip, and we'll fold on those score lines. And then after we're done with page 8, don't run away, because this is where we are going to tee off the bottom, where you can see some of the black in here. And if you don't want to do that, you don't have to, but I'm going to. Okay, bottom flip, hinge at the bottom score line. And we're just going to center that as best we can. I think I got mine over a little more than I should have, but that's okay. And we'll push down. Let's grab our top flip, fold. The hinge is at the top, that top score line, and we're going to hook it on. And what we're going to do is line it up with the other. Let's grab our magnets. We have 2 left, and we're going to flip this up, come down maybe a 1/2 inch, somewhere in the middle. Then we're going to get our mate. And if you got yours on crooked, this is where you might be able to kind of use your magnet to your advantage here. I am going to give a little bend, just a little bit, without creasing. And I'm going to find the sides, and I'll press. Then I can just shimmy that right off. Okay, let's open those up. We're going to work here on the inside. Let's get our bottom flip inside pocket ready to go. Cut out the squares, fold back and adhere. I have my pocket ready to go. Let's just set that out of the way. We're going to get some paper for in here. In your reserves, you will find this piece. Measure over 8 1/2 inches and cut. Okay, we're going to apply glue and be mindful of that bottom score line. But we're going to go ahead and center. We'll leave a little space there, just a hair, and we'll center that side to side, and then we'll burnish that down. Okay, next is the pocket. And we're going to go ahead and glue it down right here. The opening is right there. All right, in your reserves, you will find this piece on the back. It is this. Measure over 8 1/2 inches and cut. And this should fit fairly well. If you need to do a little trimming, you can. Now you can have this side up, and that would look really good. See, actually, I'm going to do it on this side up. And I really like that little netting or whatever that is. Let's move on into up here. Grab your top flip side pocket. We're going to assemble this, cut out your squares, fold, and adhere. All right, let's get this out of a paper pack. And the first thing I would like you to do is put this on your paper cutter, leave all this, and cut to divide. Okay, cut this way. And now what I want you to do is cut out and around each one of these. So we're going to be taking off all the little white that you can see. All right, so these are what you should have. So this is the one that we want to glue down first. We're just going to do some patchwork so that we're not cutting into a bunch more of the paper. So that one goes down first. Leave yourself a border up there. Next, we have this. And this one, I'm going to make sure I get up around that magnet here. And I'm going to lay this down. Next, we have this one. And we're going to make sure that we are away from that top little score line there, and we're going to overlap. We'll leave a little bit of a border there. Don't worry about if it's not even over there because that gets covered. And then we're going to lay this one down. All right, opening is this way, so underneath this we'll go over there. Let's get that down. And your magnet should be clear from there. In your reserves, you will have these two scraps. This piece is about 9 3/8 or so. This one is approximately about 6 1/2. And they're slender. You know you have the right ones that if you were to place these down, they would cover the pocket. On both of these, measure over 6 1/4 and cut. All right, I'm going to glue that one down here to the side. And then I think I'm going to glue that one down right here. And I'll leave a little bit of a black border. So we've used up a ton of our scraps because this size of pages and albums left us with a lot of narrow stuff. And I wanted to use them up rather than be left with a bunch of scraps otherwise we may not ever use. But I, like when I do my picture mats and stuff, and you know I like to put decorative paper on top of the mat, black mat, I will seam together pieces like this to cover. Because remember, I'm only going to get, by the time I put my photo down, all I'm going to do is have it for the framing to match in to my paper, you know, the edges. I'm going to be cutting out and around the mermaid, and then I'm going to apply it to some black cardstock and cut out and around that. Here's mine. I am going to grab just a little bit of a scrap paper, and I'm going to place her down right here. So I am going to put glue down under here and up around here, and then I'll leave it for a little tuck. I think I will, so I'm just going to kind of go for it there, see what I get. And you want to make sure that her hair, by the way, I cut my hair down a little bit. It was very difficult. All right, so now you have a tuck spot. All right, in your paper pack, you will have this print on the back. It is this. We're going to go ahead and turn it this way, measure over 4 1/8 and cut. You are going to need this, so set that off to the side. All right, let's flip that over, measure over 8 1/2 and cut. All right, so let's make sure this fits. Let's use it. Okay. I'm going to open this up so I can burnish this a little better. All right, turn it like this. The mermaid's over here. Measure over 6 1/4 and cut. Now we'll turn her upside down, measure over 8 1/2 and cut. Apply glue, and we are going to center that, line up our sides, and glue that down. All right, right here on your cut apart, the sea, once it casts its spell, holds one in its net of wonder forever. We're going to cut out and around that, and then we're going to mount that to some black cardstock. And we'll cut out and around that. If you'd rather use something else, go ahead. All right, you'll also have another one of these. Grab the chest, and we're going to cut that out and mount that to some black cardstock as well. And we'll cut out and around that. All right, here is my chest. I'm going to apply glue to this. And I'll just bring it down right here. This, I'm going to overlap it onto the chest a little bit, and I'll just leave that dangling. So I'm going to go here. All right, let's go to our last page. We're going to apply glue on this, and we will get that right on in there. Okay, page 8 is in the book. This looks great. Now let's work on down in here. You should have a little bit of a clipping left. Now, if you're using a different paper, you'll match into what you're doing. But do you see this green? We're going to cut on either side just to get that green, and then we can always trim that up. Okay, so what we're looking at doing is, if you can see, you have the spacing in between when we did our pages down here. Okay, what we want to do is, and you can see over here where our hinges for our spine. The idea of this is just to cut a piece to go to cover from side to side on that spine. And I'm going to make sure this does not interfere with my pages. And then I'm going to turn this around, and I'm going to do the same thing. So now I have that all teed off at the bottom and at the top. And all you need to do now is do your picture mats. We do not do those together because everyone has their own size and taste of how they like their picture sizes. So happy crafting, everyone. I'll see you again soon.